Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Magic Taco coming at you with a deck tech. I've been promising this one for a while, so I will be bringing it to you today. I know it's been a while since my last video. I've been kind of going through some new decks. I got a few different ideas, so hopefully the videos will come a little faster now. So this is my Mardu Hulk deck. It's an interesting version of reanimation slash the ability to use indomitable creativity to pull some big fat creatures out of your deck, which is kind of nice. It's fun, so we'll get to it here. We have 25 lands in total. First one being 4 concealed courtyards, fast lands, obviously very good. 3 foreboding ruins. 1 Gaia Reach Sanitarium. I've been liking this land. Every once in a while you see it, and every once in a while it's really good to get that extra draw card, discard a card. Although there have been some drawbacks with giving your opponent a card, but personally I feel like playing one in the deck has definitely helped me out in a lot of situations. 4 Inspiring Vantage, 4 Mountains, 2 Shambling Vents, 3 Smoldering Marsh, 3 Swamps, and 1 Plains. As you probably already noticed, I have blue cards in my sideboard, but we generally don't cast cards in this deck unless it's absolutely necessary, and I tried putting some blue land in there, maybe some fast lands and stuff, just to be able to cast the Sphinx if I need to, but it really was hurting the mana base in the long run. It seemed a little clunky, so I decided to just stick with the mana base as it was and go back to kind of sneaking the Sphinx in from the graveyard or from the deck with the creativity. Alright, so we got 4 Hugs. Cathartic Reunion, super good for getting cards into your discard and be able to cycle through your deck. So we run 4 of those. 2 Deccan Stones, obvious reasons. 3 Tormenting Voice. Not quite as good as Hugs, but still a solid card. Great to fuel the purposes of the deck. 3 Pia Nailars. Pia is very good against the aggro match. Gives you an effective 2 bodies for 3 mana and can really kind of help out getting you to a longer game. Also, she is in here for a specific purpose of the indomitable creativities. It's nice to have the extra body there, and then I usually will use the creativity on Pia and the Thopter. Got 2 Radiant Flames in. It's great to have the main board mass destruction tech. It's really necessary. The deck is a little bit of a slow player, and it's nice to have that mass damage to make you go into the long game. It's all about the long game with this deck. 1 Unlicensed Disintegration. It's nice to have an instant speed destroy effect main board, and on the off chance you got a nice artifact out, you can get that 3 damage in, which is really good. Really good. Run 1 Olivia. I used to run this as a 2 of until I started playing with the creativities. Olivia is great for pulling it back from your graveyard alongside of like an Ulamog or something, giving the Ulamog counter in haste, or just getting it into play, and anything that's just a +1/+1 in haste is pretty devastating overall. I've had a lot of times where I've just kind of spread out and do a mass like 30-point strike because I had an Olivia on the board and taking my opponents down from 20 to nothing pretty easily. Indomitable Creativity. This is a lot of fun. The general idea here is to destroy Thopters or Pias, or sometimes even like some of your bigger creatures. I've had that where I've destroyed Gear Hulks because they weren't good enough at the time and pulled into like an Ulamog. So essentially you want to destroy, but basically you want to destroy Pia and Thopter and put into two better creatures. Just flip them out into play. It's very an interesting card. Was kind of trying it over the last week, and I've had a lot of fun with it. So that's definitely something I can get behind. One Nahiri. Nahiri's still super good against the artifact decks and stuff like that. She also fields your discard and draw. So she's pretty good, and I've had times where I've ultimated her and went and fetched out an Ulamog or something else that's pretty nuts and get those effects there. Running 2 Refurbish. This is for reanimating your Gear Hulks. I was running more originally, but since I've started running the creativities, I've cut down on some of the other things in the deck. I went down from 4 combustible Gear Hulks to 3, and I felt the Refurbish was kind of a dead card sometimes if I wasn't seeing those Hulks fast enough, so Refurbish went down to a 2 of. 2 Rise from the Graves. I like this because you can pull from any graveyard, but you're mainly going to end up pulling from your own. It pretty much explains itself. 3 combustible Gear Hulks. This card is definitely necessary. Most of the time, this card is going to be getting your hand size back up. Your opponent, sometimes your opponent flips the 3 cards. They get lucky or terrible. Averages out about 6 damage. So sometimes it's better to flip, but there's always that random possibility that they're just going to die off of it. So most opponents will let you draw the 3 cards on this, and that is just great for fueling your deck up. 2 Ever Afters. There's not a whole lot to say about this card. You get 2 cards back. Each of them is a zombie in addition to those other types, and then you get to recycle it onto your bottom of your library, which is really great. For 6 mana, I pulled back. So a lot of times, if I have an Olivia in my graveyard, I'll pull back Olivia plus something stupid, so I can give it +1/+1 counter and haste, stuff like that. 1 random Linvala. Linvala is really good for if you can get her abilities off. It's great. Otherwise, it's a 5/5 flyer. But generally, she will the 5 life and has been mainly the 5 life is a huge thing. I don't get the angel token as much. But the 5 life is generally the main point of this, and it's a nice life point swing. 3 Noxious Gear Hulks, obviously in there to put a fatty on the board while still destroying another creature and then gaining life. It's very bad in the aggro match, so a lot of times I've sideboarded out at least one of them. In the aggros, it's great as a blocker, but its ability is not as versatile when you're playing against a bunch of creatures with 1 or 2 toughness. It's not really worth it sometimes. We got 2 Ulamogs. I have casted this guy a couple of times. It does happen. But most of the time you're going to be ditching him into your graveyard to reanimate or getting him off an Indomitable Creativity. Pretty much explains that. Sideboard, we got Shocks. We run 3 Shocks. This is mainly for sometimes the aggro matches, but mainly for the kitty cats. You try to keep down. You want to keep the Sahili from going off. And Shock's a great card to get around that. Release the Gremlins. 2 of these. It's become pretty interesting. I kind of like it for. It really seems really good against the artifact decks and getting rid of some of your opponent's vehicles, and it's getting some 2/2 goblins on the board. And in those situations, getting rid of those and getting the 2/2 goblins will also allow me to, and then I'll just destroy the goblins for the creativities and just put out some fatties, stuff like that. So a lot of fun with that. Definitely a good sideboard card. 3 Collective Brutalities. This card is a lot of times going to come in for the control match. It allows you to add a little bit more discard to the deck whilst being able to control some of the counter spells, getting rid of instant sorceries. That's the main reason for it. But it's nice to have against the super aggro decks too. If you want to you can abandon some of the reanimation theme and just go into more of a pure creature control deck, and kind of just win with your late game sauce. Then we got one unlicensed disintegration in the side, adding an extra one in against the Healy. For the cats, I do that because sometimes you can kill the cat, hit the Healy at the same time. Otherwise, generally this is going to come in against any mid-range or aggro decks to get that extra destruction. Third Radiant Flames, so we got one more Radiant Flames in the sideboard. Comes in against the aggro match, and definitely want to be able to keep those creatures down. Then we got 2 Ruinous Paths. These will come in against... these can come in against the Saheeli deck, but it's not as good because they can kind of go off on their own turn. Dropping Saheeli down, but a lot of times I'll bring these in against Liliana's, because she's pretty dumb. Liliana will win a lot of games, and I feel like Ruinous Path is necessary against those decks. Then we got a second Nahiri. This comes in the control matchup. I'll bring this in to have an extra Planeswalker, because if you get the Planeswalker out, a lot of times you can do a lot just by using getting her to go through the cards in your deck and eventually getting to her ultimate. But I will bring this in against artifact decks, things like that. And then we have 2 Sphinx of the Final Words. This is mainly super anti-control. The core control decks, the ability to be able to get this in, it has hexproof, and your instants and sorcery spells can't be countered by spells or abilities, can become really good in this deck. Now I know that they can still get the creatures, which is kind of a problem, and they can still use the 3 mana one that can get abilities. They can still use it to counter abilities, so it's not as good there. But Sphinx of the Final Word will give you a huge advantage in the control matchup, which is by far the deck's worst matchup is a full control deck. So the Sphinx can give you a lot in that matchup. But that's all 75 cards. We'll be bringing some matches soon. And thanks for listening, and feel free to subscribe.